Hi, you guys. Welcome to Math this morning. Thanks so much for being in this class and being all caught up. Today's lesson is going to be on using formulas. This is something that should be a review for most of you. We're going to be learning how to find area, perimeter, circumference, radius, diameter, surface area, and volume. So the first formula we want to talk about today is the formula for rectangles, or the formulas for rectangles. If you want to find the area of a rectangle, you take the length of the rectangle and you multiply it by the width. Now the area, that is the space that is inside the shape. Okay, so this right here, this is the area. Okay, so you would use area if you wanted to figure out how much carpet you needed to buy, if you wanted to carpet a room. Or you would use area to figure out if, like, let's say that you are getting grass for your yard, or you're going to be laying sod. You would need to know the area of your yard. Okay. Perimeter is the distance around the outside of the shape. Okay, so this right here would be the perimeter. That's the distance around the outside of our rectangle here. So some reasons that you might need to be able to figure out the perimeter would be if you're getting a fence around your yard. You would need to know how much fencing to buy. When I used to teach in public school, well, this is a public school, but a traditional school years and years ago, one of the things that I used to do is I used to decorate around the outside of my whiteboard. Okay, and so to do something like that, I would need to calculate the perimeter of the whiteboard to be able to put a decorative border around that. So the way that we find perimeter is we do 2 times the length and we add that to 2 times the width. Okay, because if we're talking about a rectangle, you're going to have 2 sides that are the same, our width, and then you're going to have 2 other sides that are the same, which would be our length. Okay, so to find area, we multiply length times width. To find perimeter, we are going to do 2 times the length and add 2 times the width. So let's go ahead and try that on these two rectangles here. So let's go ahead and find the area. Remember, the area is the space on the inside of the rectangle. So to find area, we do length times width, which means we're just going to do 10 times 8, which is 80. So the area of this rectangle would be 80. Now, one thing we have to pay attention to is units. So let's say this was 10 feet and 8 feet. Okay, so when we multiply 8 feet by 10 feet, the 8 is getting, the units of the 8 is feet, right? And the units of the 10 is feet. And so when we multiply the 8 times 10, that gives us our 80. And then feet times feet gives us our feet squared. Okay, so 80 square feet is what we would say is the area of this rectangle. So to find the perimeter, remember the perimeter is the distance around the outside. And we have 2 sides that are the same, okay? This side is the same as this side, so we know those are both 8. So we're going to have 2 times 8 plus, we know that this side right here is the same as this side right here. So we're going to have 2 times 10. And then we follow order of operations to simplify this. We have to do our multiplications before we do our addition. So we're going to multiply 2 times 8, which is 16, 2 times 10, which is 20, and 16 plus 20 is 36. Now, if this were feet, we're not multiplying feet by feet in this case. Okay, so this would just be 36 feet. That would be our perimeter. So that would be the distance around the outside of the rectangle. Okay, so this is question 1 on your quiz, so please make sure you have a piece of paper out. I want you to find the area and the perimeter for this rectangle right here. Okay, find the area and perimeter for this rectangle right here. That is question 1 on your quiz. The next formula we're going to talk about is the next formulas we're going to talk about are the formulas for a parallelogram. Remember, a parallelogram is a shape in which the two opposite sides are parallel to each other. So like this side is parallel to this side, and this side is parallel to this side. So to find the area of a parallelogram, the area is equal to the base times the height. So this is our base, and this would be our height. So if we want to find the area, okay, remember that's the space inside here, we would take the base and we would multiply it by the height. That would give us our area. And then to find the perimeter, well, we're going to do 2 times A plus 2 times B. So basically, this side right here is exactly the same as this side right here. So we have 2 of those that we're going to be adding together. And then we know that this side here is exactly equal to this side here. Okay, so we have 2 of those that we're going to be adding together. So let's go ahead and try and find the area and perimeter for this parallelogram. Before we get started, one thing I want you to realize is that we have this side right here that's 12. And so we know that this side right here is also 12. Okay, and we know that this side right here is 7. So that means that this side right here is also 7. And remember, when you're dealing with a parallelogram, that means that the two opposite sides are parallel. So this side is parallel to this side, and this side is parallel to this side. So to find area of a parallelogram, we know that the area is equal to the base times the height. Well, in this case, our base is 7 and our height is 9. Notice that our units are millimeters. So we're going to have 7 millimeters times by 9 millimeters, which gives us 63 millimeters squared. 63 millimeters squared. That is our area. And then to find the perimeter, we are going to take 2 times 12, and remember that's millimeters, and we're going to add that to 2 times 7. So 2 times 12 is 24 millimeters. 2 times 7 is 14 millimeters. And now these two are like terms, right? The units are both millimeters. So when we add those together, 24 plus 14 is 38 millimeters. So that would be the perimeter of this parallelogram. If we were to add the distance around the outside, it would be 38 millimeters. So for question number 2, you're going to do question number 2 on your own, on your piece of paper. I want you to tell me the area and the perimeter for this shape right here. Okay, the area and the perimeter for this shape right here. The next one we're going to talk about is the formulas for a triangle. So to find the area of a triangle, we take 1/2 the base times the height. Okay, so on the triangle, this right here, this would be our base, okay? And then this right here is our height. So when we want to find the area of a triangle, we just do 1/2 times the base times the height. And then again, to find the perimeter, we're just going to add the distance around the outside. So let's go ahead and try to find the area and perimeter for these two triangles. So for this first one, we know that our base is 6 and we know our height is 9. So we're going to have 1/2 times by 6 centimeters times by 9 centimeters. If we multiply 9 times 6, we get 54. And then centimeters times centimeters would be centimeters squared. And then we need to multiply that by 1/2. So basically, if we take 54 and we multiply it by 1/2, that means we're really just going to divide 54 by 2. So that gives us 27 centimeters squared. That would be the area of this triangle. Now, the next thing we need to find is the perimeter, but this is a little bit more tricky. We know what this side length is, and we know what this side length is, but in order to find the perimeter, we also need to know what this side length is. So if you guys can think back to the beginning of last week, we learned about something called the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, and this theorem was something that allowed us to, or helped us to find side lengths of right triangles when we knew 2 of the side lengths. Okay, so we're going to use this Pythagorean theorem to find the length of our third side. This is our third side. And then we can add all 3 side lengths together, and that will give us our perimeter. So we know that side A is 9. We know that side B is 6. So if we take 9 squared and add it to 6 squared, that's going to give us C squared. Now to simplify from there, we need to take care of this exponent. 9 to the second power, that's not 18. 9 to the second power is 9 times 9, which is 81. 6 to the second power is 6 times 6, which is 36. If we take 81 and we add 36, 81 plus 36, we're going to get 117. So now we know that 117 is equal to C squared. We want to solve for side C. We want to get the C all by itself. So we have to undo the squared. The opposite of squaring is taking the square root. So we take the square root of both sides. The square root of C squared, that cancels this out, right? And leaves us with just a C, is equal to the square root of 117. Now, 117 is not a perfect square. So because it's not a perfect square and we're finding the perimeter, we can add the 9 and 6 together because they're like terms. That would give us 15 plus the square root of 117. And we're just going to go ahead and leave our answer like this. Okay, so we just found the area and the perimeter of this triangle right here. Now this is question number 3 on your quiz. So I want you to tell me the area and the perimeter of this triangle right here. So you know that the height is 5, or 8, sorry, you know the height is 8 and the base is 5. So remember, to find area, you do 1/2 the base times the height. To find perimeter, can you actually find perimeter? Oh, I don't know. You need to know the distance around the outside. It looks like the only side length that you really know for this triangle is right here. B is 5. You don't know this one, and you don't know this one. And actually, there's not really a way to find this side length. So you can't actually find the perimeter for this one. So find the area, and that is question number 3 on your quiz. The next one we're going to talk about are the formulas for a circle. So the radius, that is from the center of the circle to the outside. That's called the radius. The diameter is from one edge of a circle to the other edge, and it has to pass through the center of the circle. Okay, so the diameter always passes through the center of the circle. The circumference is the distance around the circle, and then the area, that would be the amount of space inside the circle. So we know that the diameter is 2 times the radius. So whatever the radius is, so like from the center to the outside, we know that the diameter is double that. We know that the formula for finding circumference is 2 times pi times radius, or you could say pi times diameter, because we know that 2 times the radius is really just the diameter. And for these, we're going to assume that pi is equal to 3.14. And then the last formula is the formula for finding area, and that is pi times by whatever the radius is squared. So let's go ahead and practice one of these together, and then I'm going to have you do one on your own. This says find the diameter, the area, and the circumference of the circle. So we know our radius is 6, which means we know our diameter is twice that. Okay, because we know that diameter is equal to twice the radius. So our diameter will be 12 centimeters. That's our diameter. Okay, so we just did this one. Now let's go ahead and find area. So to find area for a circle, we do pi times by radius squared. Well, we're going to assume that pi is 3.14 and our radius is 6. So this is pi times by 6 squared. Now you have to be careful here. When you are simplifying, you have to make sure to follow the order of operations. So you have to take care of this exponent first before you do the multiplication of 3.14. So we would have 6 to the second power, which is 36. And then we would do 36 times 3.14. And that's going to give us our area. So when we multiply those two together, I just got out my calculator, we get 113.04. And this would be centimeters squared, okay? Because remember, it was our radius squared, and our radius is 6 centimeters. So we have to put centimeters squared. So that's our area for this circle. Okay, that means that all of the space inside here is 113.04 centimeters squared. Now the last one we want to do is the circumference. And we know that the circumference is equal to 2 times pi times the radius, or we could say pi times the diameter. So since we know our diameter is 12, pi times 12 would give us, let me go ahead and plug this into the calculator really quick. So I do 3.14 times 12, and we get 37.68 centimeters. Okay, so the distance around this circle, if the radius is 6, is 37.68 centimeters. So for question number 4 on your quiz, I want you to find the diameter, the area, and the circumference of this circle right here that has a radius of 5. Okay, this is the last one we are going to do, and this slide gives us the formulas for a rectangular solid. Okay, so for something like a cube, to find the volume of a cube, so that means like everything in the inside of this cube, that's what the volume would be. So to find the volume of the cube, we do the length times the width times the height. Okay, you can see here we've got the length times the width times the height. That's going to give us our volume. And then our surface we find by taking 2 times the length times the width. Okay, so basically we've got, I'm going to do these in some different colors here. Okay, so we've got this side right here. And actually, let me erase this purple really quick. Okay, so we've got this side right here. And we know that there's going to be a matching of that side on the other side of the cube. Okay, so over here on the other side, we know that there's another surface that looks just like this. And then we have this surface. And again, we know there's a matching one on this other side. And then the last one that we have is our top and then our bottom. Okay, we know that those also match. So that's how we get this 2 times the length times the width plus 2 times the length times the height plus 2 times the width times the height to find our surface. So let's go ahead and try one of these. Find the volume and the surface area. So let's do it for this shape right here together, and then I'll have you do the last one on your own. So to find the volume, we do length times width times height. So here we've got 10 yards times 8 yards times 4 yards. So notice that we have yards times yards times yards. So that's going to give us yards to the third power. And then 10 times 8 is 80. 80 times 4 is 320. So the volume of this cube is 320 yards to the third power, okay? Because we're multiplying all 3 of these together. So that's how we find the volume. And then the next thing we want to do is find the surface area. Okay, so let's find this face first. We know that the length is 10, and we know that the height is 4. Okay, so 4 times 10 is going to be 40. So we know we're going to have 2 of those. So 2 times 40, remember this is yards, plus. Okay, let's go ahead and find this right here, surface area. So for that one, we know we have 8 times 4. So that's 32. So we're going to have 2 times by 32 yards plus, if we go ahead and find the last one here. Now for this one, we know this length right here is 10, and we know this length right here is 8. So 10 times 8 is 80. So we're going to have two of those, 280 yards. Okay, now we just simplify. And remember, we have to follow order of operations. So we need to take care of this multiplication, and this multiplication before we do any additions. So 2 times 40 is 80. 2 times 32 is 64. And 2 times 80 is 160. And these are all going to be yards here. So because they're all yards, now we just combine them. 80 plus 64 plus 160. And I'm just plugging this into a calculator. 80 plus 64 plus 160 is 304 yards. So 304 yards, that is our surface area. Okay, so let's say you wanted to cover the whole outside of this with something. Okay, you would need 304 yards of fabric. Okay, you guys, this is the end. Question number 5. I want you to find the volume and the surface area for this cube. So remember, to find volume, you do length times width times height. And to find surface area, you're going to do 2 times the length times the height, 2 times the width times the height, and I ran out of room, but 2 times the width times the length. Okay, so with that said, that is the end of your lesson. So thanks so much for being here. We are not going to have any more new lessons this week. I am actually heading out of town. Tomorrow I'm heading to the Bahamas, so I will not be back until next week. So we'll have our next new lesson on Wednesday. Starting on Wednesday, we are going to be reviewing for your semester final. I want to make sure that you guys know everything that you need to know to be able to be successful in Math 2 next year. So we're going to spend a week and a half reviewing, and then, well, I guess 2 weeks. We'll spend 2 weeks reviewing, and then you'll have another few days to finish up your final, and then school's over, which is so crazy. You won't have this class anymore. So I hope you guys have a really good day. And if you have any questions or if you're needing any help, please text me, call me, email me. Please make contact with me. Let me know that you're struggling. Other than that, have a great day. I will see you next week.